Bonsoir, bienvenue aux questions-réponses en compagnie de Stuart Gordon.
Merci.
So, Stuart, how about the reaction of the public?
Well, this is my favorite audience because you really you make it into a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people laughing
Thank you.
all along the movie, so I wanted to ask you if you used that kind of audience and cracking people out like this by showing that kind of stuff.
Well, this movie does get a lot of reactions, you know, and there are laughs in it, and there are people screaming, and then there's people yelling at the screen, and it's a participatory movie, and I think that's what I like to do.
What did you want the audience to feel exactly during Stuck?
I wanted them to feel that it was happening to them. You know, I wanted it to be a very subjective experience. This is a true story. It did happen about 7 years ago, and the first half of the movie is pretty accurate in terms of what really went down. The woman did work at a nursing home. She did hit this guy, a homeless man, and put him in her garage, and then immediately afterwards went into the house and made love to her boyfriend.
Did he survive?
No, in the true story, the man did not survive. And what they determined afterwards was that if she had just taken him to a hospital, he would have, that his injuries were not life-threatening. But the fact that she allowed him to bleed to death is the reason that she's now serving a 50-year prison term.
And so, how do you choose this story? Just read it in the news or heard about it?
It was a big story. It was in all of the newspapers, and I couldn't believe it. It was like, why would a woman who is normally, you know, taking care of people, why would she do something like this? And that question is what I, you know, went to John Stryzik, the writer, and the two of us started working on the script together.
How long did you work on the script?
We worked for about 2 years, and originally we kept very, very close to the facts. And after several drafts, I think John said, "Well, what would happen if he realizes that she's not going to help him and he tries to get out? He tries to escape?" And then what you saw tonight was the result.
So, if I get it good, you change the script, maybe to make the guy stuck in the windshield to be the hero, because by the end, when he hit the guy and kill him, I heard a lot of cheers in the audience. So, was that your point?
Well, you know, I think both of the characters are victims in a way. You know, they're both stuck. You know, she gets stuck. She's stuck in a dead-end job. She has made some very bad decisions, and she gets stuck trying to, you know, once she's, you know, decided not to help him, then one thing just happens after another. And I think there are parts of the movie where you are sympathetic to her as well.
How did you cast both characters? Was it difficult to find them?
Well, you know, Mina Suvari and I worked together on my last film, Edmund, and she heard about the script and she contacted me and she said, "I really want to play this part," which is a rare thing in Hollywood because usually actors do not want to appear unsympathetic, you know, in a film. And Stephen Ray read the script and liked it very much, and I've been a huge fan of his for a long time. I've loved his work, and starting out with movies like In the Company of Wolves and then The Crying Game, and I mean, he's never done a bad performance ever.
Did they had to prepare a lot for this movie?
Well, they did, and you know, poor Stephen, you know, he had to be in that windshield for 3 weeks, you know, while we were shooting the movie. And at one point he came up to me and he said, "Stuart, you know, in the real story, the man was in the windshield for 3 days. You know, I've been in it for 3 weeks now." But he was incredibly, he was a trooper. You know, it was not easy. It was, you know, we tried to make it as comfortable for him as we could, but, you know, hanging there upside down, you know, for so many hours, it's not easy.
Was that the most difficult thing to do in the movie?
Well, I think it was incredibly difficult for both of them because they both had to sort of really put themselves in that situation, and it really turns into a battle for survival. You know, and one of the things that was interesting was that they both get stronger during the course of the film. And Stephen said that he had this feeling that after the movie's over, that Tom, his character, would not still be out on the streets, that he would, he had gained the strength to turn his life around.
So Stephen Ray's, I don't want to say he's a loser in your film, but he's totally unlucky. He had a hell of a day, but then when things get worse and worse for him, by the end, he found the strength to survive, even with killing those two people. And was that some sort of message you wanted to show or tell?
Well, I think that you do have to take charge of your life. I think that is the point, and that so often we feel powerless. I think that's kind of what's going on in our society right now. We feel like nobody helps anyone anymore. We're living in very selfish times, and so I think you do have to become self-reliant. You have to look out for yourself, but I think you also have to care for others. I think that is the sort of the underlying hope in this movie.
Are there any questions maybe from the public?
Une question dans le public?
Alle vraagjes?
Yes, hello. Hi, Mr. Gordon. You mentioned working with Mena Suvari first time on Edmund. That movie is a bit of a Stuart Gordon movie hors série, if you know what I mean. It's one that stands apart from all the other ones in the sense it's a drama. It's written, I think, by David Mamet. Can you tell us why you made that movie? How that movie came about?
Well, Edmund was originally a play, and I saw the very first production of it. It premiered in Chicago where I was living, and I'm a friend of David Mamet's. I had worked with him on one of his very, very first plays. And when I saw it, it absolutely blew me away. I was like in shock after I saw that play, and I never forgot it. And over the years, I talked with him about the idea of making it into a movie. One of the actors that's in Stuck and also in Edmund is Lionel Mark Smith. He plays the homeless man in Stuck, and he and we were all working on another film called King of the Ants, and it was Lonnie who said, while we were working on it, why don't we do Edmund next? These Stuck and those other two films are all set in the real world. They were kind of a departure for me. They're not, Lovecraftian films at all. They're, much more about what really happens. And, Edmund is a story about a man who also has to kind of find the strength to become who he really is.
I see. Actually, there is a similarity indeed between these two movies in the sense it's like characters who get into a spiral where they can't get out of anymore. That was.
Yeah, that's true.
Just a small other question, just for fun. With all the success of Transformers these days, don't you feel an itch sometimes to redo Robot Jox and do it right?
Well, that movie almost killed me making that film, and I'm just happy that I was able to do it. And I think it's kind of funny that it took 20 years for there to be another giant robot movie. It was watching the technology that's available today. It would be fun to go back and revisit it, but I kind of feel like I've done that movie already.
Hi. With both main characters being kind of stuck with their jobs, Stephen Rea not finding a job and Mena Suvari being stuck between promotions, I read some kind of social commentary into the fact that it was in that story. Is that intentional, or was it just a plot point for you to use?
Well, I think it was based on the reality of the situation. In the real story, it was a homeless man who was hit, and one of the things that has become clear to me is that we're all, they say we're just two paychecks away from becoming out on the streets ourselves, So any of us could be in that situation at some point. And the question that we were wondering is, why did this woman do this? And the idea that here she is in this job that she is, where she's literally cleaning up, shit off of people, that this was a chance for her to rise above that, and she was not going to let anything get in her way. So in a sense, the two stories, it was driven by the story, I guess, is what I'm saying. I think there is. We're making statements in this film, but I'm not one of those filmmakers that likes to be preachy. I think it's there for you if you want it to be, if you can see it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the film. It seemed at the beginning there was this ongoing theme about choices, where there was an ultimatum and then it's your choice.
Yeah.
And in some respects, the boss did that a little bit to Mina as well, without really using the words.
Yes.
But then that theme seemed to disappear in the middle, and I didn't know where you were going with that necessarily.
Well, I think what the point was that there aren't, you're not given choices. They keep telling you you have a choice, but you really don't, unless you really make the decision to create your own, choices. And I think that was sort of the idea of the film, that our society is set up now to keep us in our place, and that we have to fight against that.
There are other questions?
Good evening. First, I would like to tell you thank you for this movie, because I really appreciate it, because I think it's not just a thriller. It could be, we could watch this film like a social movie about what people can do to keep their idealistic way of life together, even if for that they have to kill someone. And I just want to tell you that this aspect of your film make me film about another movie made a few years ago in half France, half Belgium. I don't know if you saw this movie. It's called Le Couperet by Costa Gavras, and it's the story of a jobless man who's looking for a job, and to get more chance to have a job, he kills other jobless like him with a diploma. So this social aspect of your film reminds me this other one. So just thank you for that.
It's funny you should say that, because I did not see that film,
Yeah.
but I did read the book that it was based on.
Yes, it's not based on true event, of course. It's just
Yeah.
a book. But I like this in both cases. I like this social aspect on the films. And I have another question. In the beginning, it says so. It's based on true events, and I would like to ask you, what part of your film is the reality? I mean, did you took some?
I think the first half of the movie is pretty true.
Yeah.
It's pretty accurate. When the point it goes off into, veers from the truth is the moment that he escapes from the windshield, because in reality the man never did.
He never. Oh, okay. So, but he died. No.
He did not live.
Oh, okay.
He did not survive.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot.
Is there anybody else with a question?
I just want to ask, in the beginning there are two scenes where the Stephen Rea character has the framed photograph of probably his son. And can you maybe elaborate, did you have a backstory to this relationship? Because Stephen Rea, in my opinion, from what I saw, could have gone back to his family instead of sleeping in the park.
That's a very good question, and I'll tell you an amazing story that just happened last week. We showed the film in Dallas at the Dallas Film Festival, which is where the real event took place. And after, I was not present at this screening, but after the screening was over, a young man came up to Stephen Rea and introduced himself, and he was the actual son of the man who had been killed. And and he didn't really know his father very well. His father had left the family. We had originally did have a subplot in this story about him having a wife and a family that he's left to find work. That she has gone to live with her mother. and we ended up dropping it because we really wanted to focus on him. In our version of the story, we had her looking for him, and we finally decided that it was better that he had to rescue himself in our story.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for. Okay. Thank you for your movie. I thought also it was an excellent movie. I was wondering how many days of shooting were there and what was the budget?
We shot for 22 days on this film, and the budget was about $3.5 million.
And do you have a deal for Europe?
We have a company that is doing the foreign sales called Regal, and I think they are making deals for the distribution. The movie is going to be released in the States on the 30th of May. It'll be a small release, and I'm hoping that it will be released here as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes?
Thank you. A couple of months ago, we were excited to see your name attached to the fourth installment of Reanimator. But now we saw all these news on the internet that it ain't gonna happen. There are some problems about the fact you were Dr. Herbert West was going to reanimate the president. Is that true?
Yeah, unfortunately, we got into a lot of, we had problems raising the financing because people were afraid of offending the Bush administration. And I was very disappointed. I mean, this movie should have been made a year ago and be released, right now. That would have been ideal. But unfortunately, we couldn't make it happen. And I think it's, one of those stories that it's a very timely story, and it's kind of missed its opportunity.
Could we see another installment with another story or something?
At some point, maybe. I mean, it's possible. I was looking forward to getting back and with those characters and with the cast, and we had William H. Macy was going to play the president, and Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott and Barbara Crampton were all planning on coming back, so it would have been great to work with them all.
Perhaps with another president?
Pardon, another president?
Perhaps with another president?
Maybe. I'm kind of hoping that the next president's going to be a much, much better one, and that we're not going to have to do a movie like that.
One last question before we go over to the signing session. Did you use the stunt double for the last scene of Mena Suvari?
Well, I'll tell you that Mina actually did set herself on fire. Yeah, she really did. Mina is fearless, and they've got a new gel now that it's possible. So, and I actually tried it as well.
You tried it?
Yeah, I did, and you can burn without feeling the heat. It's interesting. She did have help with the scene with the full body burn, but the moment where you see her arm burning, that's real. That's really happening. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much,
very much.
for coming.
Thank you all for coming.
Awesome.